Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Really exciting to be here today at the Big Data and AI conference. It's weird because I love coming to these conferences to meet everyone and to start to talk a little bit about the challenges that we're all facing in big data and AI. And have to admit, it feels a little weird doing all of this by WebEx now and not getting to meet everyone face to face. But I think this is as good as it gets right now, and really happy to be here today, at least sharing some of my experiences and hearing from the rest of you in our own virtual way about how we're dealing with what I think is a really exciting industry right now, a great time to be alive, to be working in data and AI, and really pushing the boundaries of what we can do. So today I'm going to get kind of practical on this, and I'm going to talk about generating targeted AI revenue at mass scales. This has been something that, at least for me, as I've gone through the entirety of my career, really been focused on how do we scale up all these capabilities? How do we take them from an interesting data science model to really taking advantage of the full scale of the data that we have coming in now with some of the digital capabilities as we see more people generating more data? We have cloud computing. How do we bring it to scale? And I'm excited to say that we're really starting to realize now the scale of artificial intelligence, machine learning systems, and I'm really excited to be talking about it. So before we get into how to really scale this kind of stuff up and to generate revenue, I want to give you a little bit of context about me and what I do. So I am the Senior Vice President of Data and Technology over at Air Miles. Data and technology is a combined department of all of our analytics and data science functions, as well as all of our IT functions. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but I think part of our ability to be able to scale these data processes and the value that we're really realizing in the AI world right now is starting to combine more and more of these functions, like bringing data science closer to IT, bringing both IT and data science closer to marketing, bringing all of them closer to our sales and client services teams, et cetera. So there really is an organizational challenge in the middle of it. And I have definitely found that putting data science closer to IT has been a really great way to start to realize some of that value. So not to get too far ahead of myself on this. If we talk a little bit about the Air Miles program, I want to call out some of the stats because for me, this really grounds us in why it's important to be able to scale all the capabilities that we're deploying right now. Air Miles is Canada's most recognized loyalty program for over 2 decades. We have over 11 million collectors with 750,000 collectors joining every year. We look at something like $600 million in rewards being returned to collectors every single year, and Air Miles cards are swiped over 1,000 times a minute with a reward being redeemed every 2 seconds. I point this out just to speak of the scale of the program. And I know that many of you are dealing with similar scales. You have more and more customers who are coming into your businesses every single day. You're trying to manage an influx of new acquisitions where you may not have a whole lot of data on them yet, but you can start to do lookalike modeling as you get in. You have a ton of customers who are already engaged. You have a lot of data that is coming from everyone all at once. And really, it is both the promise and the difficulty that we're facing right now. How do you scale this? How do you start to deploy it throughout the organization? To make things even more interesting, when we look at the number of channels of communication that we're interacting with these days, we have over 5 million Air Miles collectors who are engaged across our digital channels that we can target with digital display, search, social, video advertising. We're seeing over 38 million visits a year to airmiles.ca. We have over 4.5 million emailable collectors. We have 1-month users in our mobile app and our mobile device that is upwards of 350,000. We have 6.2 in our social match channels of Facebooks and Instagram. And then we're looking at our email open rates, which we also track and monitor and optimize. And this is also adding to the complexity of the scale that we're dealing with right now. We're no longer trying to scale our solutions out through a single channel. It's scale of a single solution over multiple different types of customers, over multiple different marketing deployment channels. And again, it is the thing that makes me so excited about where we are right now, but it remains a big challenge to be able to do this and to be able to do it effectively and to be able to do it in a cost-effective way, where we're really optimizing for ROI. So the generic platforms, or not a generic platform, the single platform that we have created in order to do this, we term Smoky. Smoky comes from the classic Smokey and the Bandit, the bandit being, of course, a reference to the contextual bandit algorithms that are at the core of much of our AI processing right now. That contextual bandit, some of you may know, is a kind of, where to optimize, and it's an explore versus exploit algorithm. We have an ensemble of many algorithms within many of these AI solutions that are doing this kind of optimization, but it does tend to be in that exploration and exploitation, classification of the type of AI that we're exploiting and deploying. So it's our one-to-one CRM personalization platform. We can deploy personalized offers at the SKU level. So this is based on a collaborative filtering algorithms and a collection in the collaborative filtering range, lookalike modeling, and figuring out, based on past purchase history, often at the SKU level, what are specific SKU-based products that we should be targeting to individual customers. All of it is underpinned by machine learning, often deep learning and reinforcement learning algorithms, making decisions about what is the next best offer to put in front of an air miles collector. A lot of what we're doing is increasing campaign ROI. So a lot of the optimization that the machine learning algorithms here are working towards is an ROI optimization. And of course, we do that in two different ways. The first way is by choosing the universe to which we're deploying marketing messages, not only choosing the universe that is going to be most receptive to the message and most likely to respond, but also looking at the channel of communication that is most appropriate on an individual level, so that we're not bombarding email communications to someone who will be primarily using the app or trying to use the app for someone who isn't engaged in the app. All of this ultimately results in less time and effort. But the less time and effort is a little bit misleading to say that, it's out of the box, less time and effort, because often what we're finding now is that the effort is shifting. Rather than having to deploy campaigns on an ongoing basis, sort of always looking at what to deploy next, building up a new universe, thinking about which channels to deploy it, and then doing the reporting on the back end, we're finding that the time and effort is now being much more front-loaded. It's more useful time and effort. So what we're looking at, instead of spending the time doing the list creation and figuring out how to deploy, it's about what is the strategy? How are we engaging different audience segments at this point, based on their CRM profile. So is this a new customer who has just joined? We're trying to build their engagement and trying to get them interested in visiting the retailers within the Air Miles Coalition. Are we growing their interest and trying to expand them into different categories? Are we preventing decline because we're seeing that they're coming down and maybe pulling back from some of their spend? That effort now has to be upfront, because we have to start to say, these are the things that we're going to optimize. These are the objectives that we're going after. But once they get into market, you can start to deploy more and more and more of these types of campaigns. They continue to run in the background. They have reporting mechanisms that are going back into our data management systems, again, powered by that machine learning. And so it turns into an always-on deployment that is really very effective. We have seen campaign return on investments increase by 7 to 10% across the board. Some of them have had really, really good results. They're all test and learn. And so 7 to 10% is really about the average right now. And we're seeing those numbers start to creep up as we increase the overall deployment. This is a quick look at what it actually looks like. And so a lot of what we're doing is really determining what is the appropriate stretch target to put in front of any consumer. You can imagine you're going into a grocery store and maybe your typical spend is in the $100 range. Do we want to try and get you to stretch up to $110 spend? Or should we go for $120? Or should we be really ambitious and should we try to get you to spend $130 instead of your normal $100 spend? And in return for that, what is the appropriate incentive to put in front of you? If I'm doing a relatively small stretch and trying to get you to increase by about 10%, maybe I put a relatively small incentive there. If it's a larger stretch, perhaps it's a larger incentive. A lot of what the machine learning algorithms are doing underneath the surface is determining what is the appropriate stretch to put in front of an individual consumer, and then what is the incentive that we'll put in front of them in order to optimize our ROI. Another really key aspect here is that you got to make sure that you're optimizing to ROI. If you're optimizing to response rates, the machines will put really rich offers in front of everyone. It'll end up being a very expensive campaign. You'll get great response rates, but it's because you're incenting in a way that the machine isn't controlling for. So it's very important to put those cost measures in there, because eventually these are going to be deployed in a scalable, automated way across many millions of channels and many millions of contacts. Key benefits that we're seeing. We are able to now personalize offers to millions of Air Miles collectors, and these are the customers for our retail loyalty partners in the grocery sectors, in the liquor sectors, in specialty retailer, with gas, a lot of our bank customers. We're now sending out weekly offers that are personalized. So instead of doing a single mass campaign that is going out to many customers at once, we're transitioning to one-to-one. This is improving campaign ROI in two ways. First of all, what is the optimal universe to send to in which channel? And second of all, what is the appropriate offer richness to make sure that we're getting response rates once those messages go out? Finally, all of this is automated so that there's insights that are continuously cycling back into the database that we're learning to continually generate more and more optimal responses every time we cycle through. So all of this is really exciting for us. A lot of key benefits in here, and here's some of the results. This is a marketing campaign ROI that we've seen go up by 240%, 4 times better when we really look at the sales to cost ratio of a marketing campaign. That was equivalent to about 1% in top line sales growth over a period of 21 weeks. Second one that I'll just call out is this is looking at email open rates, looking at the base open rate. We got a 43% improvement on email open rates and engagement. And we also measure the engagement by number of air miles that are actually collected by each of the collectors that is getting some of these targeted personalized offers. And so really happy with all of this. It's all starting to line up to overall CRM strategies, making sure that when you're looking to build baskets, you're actually building baskets. When you're getting people in the door, that's what's happening. If you're trying to expand a frequency or a category engagement, that is already happening as well. So how do we do this? And what is the key to really getting into this, AI at scale and really generating these kinds of results across so many channels, across so many collectors? I would love to say that it's just technical in nature, and surely there are many technical challenges that we have had to overcome in order to get this right. The first being a really good data management system. So we recently migrated the entirety of our data management from an on-prem database into the cloud. And when we did it, we didn't take on a simple lift and shift strategy. What we did instead was we created a flexible data lake that we could integrate directly with our machine learning algorithms and integrate directly with our marketing operations. A lot of the work and development that was done in this, and it was multiple years and multiple millions of dollars of investment, was to ensure that we have data ingestion pipelines that have a completely automated ETL process associated with them, that machine learning models are being built in a flexible, scalable way on top of the data lake, so that we're doing some transformations on the fly, but that they also have the kind of data available and accessible that they're going to be reusing so that we can do the processing quickly. Finally, integrating all of this with the marketing channels. So making sure that our marketing channels and deployment of marketing channels are also connected into the data lake environment through a series of APIs for easier deployment. And All of this has to be automated in order to make everything happen at scale. And we didn't automate it all at once. We took certain sections at certain times and sort of, we're going to eliminate a lot of the manual work in this space, and then we're going to move over here and eliminate manual work in this space. And it continues in that way. We're constantly making sure that wherever the bottleneck is that is associated with manual work, we're increasingly eliminating those periods and making sure that we're getting fully automated deployment as well as fully automated reporting solutions on the other end, so that when these campaigns are in market continuously, you have full automation. That's the technical part of it. Unfortunately, really what we're seeing is that the challenge in getting this to work is not even so much of the technical. I'm sort of sorry to say, the technical stuff, as complicated as it is actually the easy part. The more difficult thing about doing this at scale is this chasm that exists sometimes between data science and technology and the marketing departments and the business deployment and the areas of your business that are generating revenue and that are accountable for really looking at the key metrics that drive your business. And there's lots of reasons for this chasm to exist. I have encountered all of these at various different times in my life and at various different times in my career. I hope that none of you are trying to deal with all of them simultaneously, because that's really the nightmare of AI, when you're dealing with partners in your business who are not comfortable with technical terms, who have risk aversion to trying new things when it comes to deploying AI solutions. Sometimes it's a difficulty in estimating timelines and cost. How long will it take me to deploy this? And you're saying, well, I don't know. I haven't done it at scale yet. I cannot estimate until we start doing it. Building business requirements can be a difficult thing to do because we've never really thought about the business in this way. Prioritization and sequencing, managing multiple stakeholders, maybe you don't have established change management. All of these things are the big organizational barriers that we need to overcome. And I love this quote from Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan is one of my favorite scientists, and I love him because he's not only a great scientist in his own right, but he's also a great science communicator and always brings science back to an understandable level for all of us. He said, "We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology." And this, for me, in a nutshell, kind of encapsulates a lot of the difficulty that we're really doing, is that, we as practitioners in big data and AI kind of understand the power and we see where this is going. But a lot of our partnerships, and the partnerships is where the scale is going to happen, for them, they don't really understand, or they don't really know what the consequences are or what the benefits are. And I would put forward that it's on us to make sure that we are communicating in a way that brings these two pieces together, because that is the key element in getting some of this to scale. We have to recognize that there is risk for the business in taking on some of these types of initiatives at scale that does not exist when you're doing a small proof of concept. A small proof of concept is relatively easy to deploy. Once you get into really putting your chips on the table and really being able to say, we are now going to scale this across many millions of deployments, we're going to really start to put millions of dollars on the line in order to do this. No matter how many times you've proved it to be a success in pilots and proof of concepts, there is still risk in changing the way that the business is going to think about how they make money and how they think about deploying some of these types of solutions. Organizational change. You have to recognize that if you're asking the organization to move from manual processes that they have been doing for 20 years and move into an AI-driven process, even though you can assure them that the AI will improve things over time and it will get better, you do have to take that leap of faith. You have to be able to say, okay, I have enough data. Now I'm willing to commit, and now I'm willing to put it on the line and go in there. And I think that often some of the terms that we use, one of the terms that I was using recently, as early as a few weeks ago, we were talking about developing a test and learn environment. And as I was speaking to one of my partners on the business side, I was realizing that what she was hearing when I was saying test and learn is, what do you mean learn? Like, you don't know what you're doing. When you say you're going to learn as you go, that's terrifying for me, because that means that, you're not taking the expertise and deploying something. I'm putting real dollars on the line here. I'm putting my real business KPOs on the line. And you're saying you're going to test and learn. Well, most of us who are in this industry know that test and learn is really just another way of saying tweaking and optimizing, and that, yeah, you might go down a little bit, but if you've tuned your AI in the right way, you're on an upwards trend and you can mitigate those risks. But sometimes that language barrier is one of the things that really sets us back more than anything else. I'll speak quickly about talent as well. There's a very specialized talent set in a lot of these deployments. And to be quite honest, a lot of what we found as we start to deploy these at scale is that it requires a different kind of skill set, a different kind of attitude. You're now no longer just deploying marketing strategies and building universes. We're asking you to think and design a new CRM strategy. You may have people who are really good at building lists for marketing deployment and pushing them out. You may have people who are great at building one-off creative content. But now when you say, I need you to build me creative content that can scale, that can be brought in through machine learning algorithms, or I need you to now develop a whole CRM strategy and describe what are the various optimizations at various stages of that, that's a new skill set. And that is one of the big barriers that we're seeing, as well as either just taking the time to train people and to bring them along, or to find new people who can come into the organization who can help guide it. And these things just don't happen overnight. It's always kind of easy to say, I could sit in front of a computer and I can just cram all night, I can write the code. Talent changes just inherently take a long time. Finally, updating business processes. And so again, it goes back to thinking about your business in a different way, making sure that these things are getting scaled and deployed is often accompanied by a new business process. I'm going to sort of finish off here because I know we're getting up to time, and I know there's other speakers who are waiting in the wings right now. The good news is that with all these things, with the right technical infrastructure and architecture, the right thoughtfulness put into the data management system and how we're going to deploy, you will get to a breakthrough, and we will get to breakthroughs. At this time, we are currently deploying about 40 million personalized offers a month. We are seeing increased customer engagement. We're seeing increased profitability and ROI. But I want to stress, this was years of technical development and implementation, but also, and critically, most importantly and most difficult, it's addressing the challenge of the organizational change that we have to go through, hitting it right on, taking accountability for it, and making sure that the organization is coming along so that we can all realize the value of doing AI at scale. I'll end us there because I know I'm at time. Thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure to be here with you all, even though virtually. My name again is Jane Moran. Love to hear from you and follow up. I don't know if we have time for questions, but happy to take a couple.
Hi, Jane. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this fantastic presentation, and congrats on migrating your data to the cloud. Like we've seen in many sessions in this conference, it's definitely not an easy mission to complete.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, we did receive a few questions, but I think maybe you can answer a couple of them quickly. One of them was, one of our attendees is wondering if Smoky was built in-house.
Yes. Smoky was completely built in-house. So we did have some underlying infrastructure as we did the cloud migration. We worked with partners to do some of the data management, but Smoky was completely built in-house, yes.
Amazing. And then the next question is, what do you aim to answer in your overall analytics for this platform? What are the KPIs aside from ROI?
Oh, so we're looking at overall digital engagement. We're looking at responses. Certainly, we're looking at click-through rates and open rates in our email engagement and deployment. We're also looking at increased sales within our partner retailers, and so it's a little bit about ROI. But are we also driving foot traffic into some of our Air Miles partners, the Sobeys and the Metros and the LCBOs and Shell? Are they seeing increased traffic? Are they seeing increased engagement from Air Miles collectors? And are they seeing more Air Miles collectors swiping those cards when they do shop?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I highly recommend everyone to visit the Air Miles booth. They have so many good information and great insights as well. Thank you, Jane, for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been really great.